My name is Phoebe and welcome to my channel. Also welcome to another episode of Talking About My Dad. The title of today's episode is Ministry and Marriage. Okay, so the last episode I talked about his growing up years, and my dad would always tell his father that, "Daddy, one day I'll become a very rich man. I'll build a house in the city. I'll buy my car, bring it down here and drive you around in it. And I will demolish this mud house you have and replace it with a block house." And my grandfather will laugh at his son and say, "You don't know what you're talking about." So what do you mean, Papa? You say, "Do you know that I am a poor man?" My father will say, "And you are my son." You say, "So you are the son of a poor man, meaning you will always be poor." And my father will say to his dad, "Yes, I may be the son of a poor man, but I am not poor." And so some years passed. After my dad became an administrator, he got his first car. Now, what I do not know is if it was an official car or a personal car, but he got his first car. I think it was a personal car, now that I remember, because I remember when he got his official car, he gave his personal car to my mom. Yeah, I think it was his personal car. His first car was a personal car. So he drove down with the car to the village, got to his father's compound, got down from the vehicle and went to greet his father. And then while they were discussing, he pointed at his car and said to his father, "Papa, do you know the owner of that car over there?" And the father said to him, "I think he must be one of the neighbors whose children came to visit. So I think maybe it's one of my neighbor's children's car." And my father said to his father, "No, that is not your neighbor's child's car. That is your son's car." And his father was shocked and looked at him and said, "Yes, Papa, I have a car. Remember, I always told you that I will be a rich man and I will bring my car and drive you around in it." So that day, my father drove his father around the village in his car. And on that note, let's now jump into today's episode titled "Is Ministry and Marriage." Okay, so my dad from his young age has always loved God. Even though his parents were idol worshippers, they never stopped their children from attending church or attending school. Because as I said in the first episode, my grandfather had lost hope of having children by the time he got his children. So he tried to give them everything, reasonable within his power. Tried to give them everything they wanted as much as he could. So my dad was an altar boy in the Catholic Church. In fact, the Catholic Church in my village is built on a portion of my grandfather's land. Okay, story continues. So my dad, was a altar boy in the Catholic Church and lost this desire of being a Catholic priest. And we all know that Catholic priests do not get married. So now, if my father had gone ahead with his plan of not getting married and being a Catholic priest, then I do not know what would have happened. Maybe I wouldn't have been born. But then, after a while, he changed his mind because of his dad. Like, his father had issues bearing children, so he wanted to make his father happy by having children also, because he felt his dad will not be happy if one of his child, because my grandfather had just 3 sons, and my father felt his father won't be happy if one of his children becomes an Enoch. So my father now had to change his mind and then decided to get married. So while he was in the city, he was still in the Catholic Church, he worked in the Catholic Church, and when somebody invited him to CPM, and there he gave his life to Christ, and the word of God he had there, sweetened him, and he decided to go and spread the good news in the Catholic Church. So while he was still going to CPM, he didn't stop attending Catholic Church. He kept on attending and then formed the charismatic section of the Catholic Church. Himself and some group of his friends, they formed the charismatic section of the Catholic Church, and they were preaching the word of God that they had heard from CPM and also from personal study. They were preaching it to their group. But then they continued, and the fire was burning, the fire of the word of God was spreading everywhere. People were amazed at the good news of Jesus Christ. But then the leadership of the church then felt they were causing a division among their members, so they told them to stop what they were doing. But they didn't excommunicate them from the church. They were still allowed to attend the church, but just to stop their Bible study groups. And so my dad and his friends decided to, since they were not allowed to use the church building anymore for their Bible study, they decided to take it outside and form the ministry where they were preaching the word of God to people. And many people were rushing, even from the Catholic Church and other regions and other churches. They were all joining, back then in Lagos, to listen to the word of God. And as they were continuing, they had this thirst for God, they had this hunger and deep desire for more of the word of God. And in that deep desire and burning for God, somebody else invited my dad again to another Bible study, where he said, come see a man, or this man preaches the word of God, like as if he was there when the event happened. So my dad followed that his friend, and he heard the word of God, and he was moved by it, that he returned back to his Bible study group and told his friends that he has seen somebody who preaches as if he was there while the event was happening, and he feels that they have so much to learn from the man, and that they should close down their ministry and go and learn with WF Kumuyi. So some of his friends agreed, to leave and to close down their Bible study group, but some refused and went on to form their own ministry. So my dad went and joined himself to Deeper Life, and himself after some while he became a Bible study leader under Deeper Life. And on that note, he started praying for the will of God, because his ministry was moving on and he needed a life partner to help in the ministry. So he was praying to God for the will of God. And then one day he had a dream. He saw a lady descending from up, and she was, gradually coming down and down and down, and then when she got down to the earth, and when she got down, she was wearing a particular jewelry, and also he didn't see her facial features. He only saw her side profile. So that was the earring, or the jewelry was the significant thing he could pick out from her. And he had never seen that kind of jewelry before. So after he woke up from the dream, he now knew. In that dream, God told him, this is your wife. So he woke up from the dream and then went everywhere looking for any lady wearing that earring. And no matter how much he searched, he did not find. He couldn't find any lady with that earring. So he went back to God and said to God, you showed me this lady, you told me she's my wife, and I've been looking for her everywhere. I've not seen her. What am I going to do? And God now said to him, did I send you to go looking for a lady with a earring? And I'm like, he said, I did not send you on that errand. Don't stop searching for her. I will bring her to you. And so that's how my father stopped doing message of no return and now relaxed and waited for God to bring the woman to him. Now this is where I now move on to my mother's side of the story. So my mom was a working class lady in the southeast of Nigeria, and she had a bigger job opportunity. She was called for an interview, and so she went and she passed the interview. There are so many people that came, but then they needed just 2 people, and she was one of the 2 people that was picked by the owner of the company. So when she was picked, she was asked to go for a training in the south part of Nigeria and then resume in the southwest. So she went for the training, and by then she had somebody who wanted to marry her. She had somebody who was not in the desire of marrying her, but it was diabolical. So she was having second thoughts about marrying him, but she couldn't tell him to his face. So when she got that job opportunity, the suitor was reluctant for her to go, but then she found a way around it. And so she went for the training in south part of Nigeria, came back to the southeast to pick her things on her journey to start her journey to the southwest. While she was preparing to travel, somebody in our workplace came to her and said, oh, you are going to Lagos? She said yes. He said, I have a brother, we are from the same village, but it's a long time we saw, it's a long time we met. So he wrote a letter, and then he said, can you help me look for this my friend and brother and give this letter to him? And then on the letter he wrote the address. So my mom said, okay, no problem. She collected the letter, traveled, settled into that job, and then after a while she remembered, I have to go and deliver this letter. So with the address, she looked for the place. Apparently the place was, she did not know that the place she was looking for, or the place she would be going to that day, would be the office address of her future husband. So she got there, and jubilating that she was finally free from the diabolical suitor. And so she got there, met with my dad, and though my dad was waiting for God to bring the woman to him, he still had an open mind. Was still interacting with people, meeting people. And so he told her, after speaking to her, he found out that she was new in Lagos. So he then said to her, okay, I can let me take you on a date, sort of like a sightseeing, show you some places around in Lagos. And so they picked a date for the dates. And then on the day that my mom was preparing to go for the appointment with my dad, she had this friend who had a beautiful piece of jewelry that she loved. So she borrowed the jewelry. She asked a friend to lend her the jewelry, and then she used it to go for the date. And when my father saw her, it was the exact earring he has been looking for all this while. And so he now knew that was his wife. And so after the dates, they kept on talking, and then after a while they got married, and so ministry and marriage continued for my father. And then she had the first child, but they lost it. And as usual, my mom was sad. She was crying, and while she was crying, she said she will never forget something my father said to her. He told her, "Don't worry, you would have children and you will get tired of having children." And so she took in again and had children and children and children. And then that word that my father said to her came to pass, because by the time she will have her last child, she was done having children. She thought it was menopause, only for them to go and check her at the hospital, and then they found out that it was actually pregnancy and not menopause. So she had children and got tired of having children. And I want to use this as a reference point to waiting fathers out there. Maybe your wife is mourning, or you are both mourning over the loss of a child or the lack of a child. I want to tell you that this is the period for you to speak blessing into your wife's life. This is not the period for you to get angry at her. This is not the period for you to cuss at her. This is not the period for you to get irritated at her. This is the period for you to speak blessing and fruitfulness into her life, because the words that you speak to her during this period will go far, to change whatever plans the enemy has. And there are also biblical references to back this up. You look at Anna. She told her she was crying for children, and her husband said to her, "Am I not better to you than 10 sons?" Yes, he didn't per se pray for her, but he didn't say hurtful words to her. He didn't say mean words to her. He didn't curse at her. He said he tried to soothe her pain. Then let's look at Jacob and Rachel. Rachel said to Jacob, "Give me children or else I die." And Jacob said to Rachel, "Am I in God's stead that I should give you children?" And you see what happened with Rachel. She had a child, yes, but then she died after childbirth. Then let's look at Isaac and Rebekah. The Bible says that Isaac prayed to God for his wife, and his wife conceived. So if what you have in your mind to say at that period is negative, then keep your mouth shut and instead pray for her. If you're not going to say something positive to her, shut your mouth up. If you're going to talk, say positive things, speak blessings, speak miracle into her life. So on that note, we end this episode, and we'll continue to the next episode with his family life. Thank you for staying tuned. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel to get life-changing updates, to get inspiring messages. Thank you. Bye.